Hello again. Here are a couple of reviews on TripAdvisor of an hotel. A quiet night and a charming view of the seashore was one of the unforgettable moments. Excellent service, free internet, good food and classy staff. I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart for the warmth. Then there is great hotel, wonderful staff and service and beautiful scenery. Highly recommended. Me and my friends and family had a great stay. Architectural designs are amazing, gives a classic and luxury feeling. In the description to this video, I give a link to TripAdvisor where you can read those reviews for yourself. The first was made in April this year, and the hotel, the Al Mashtal, is a very modern one on the Mediterranean, in Gaza. You can see it in the thumbnail to this video. If you relied only upon the mainstream media to find out about Gaza, you might have the idea it's just a bunch of squalid slums and refugee camps. But of course that's quite false. You would also have been told that it's an open-air prison. But that too is a lie. In fact, there are no refugee camps at all in the Gaza Strip, for the simple reason that there are no refugees there. Well, other than a couple of hundred very old people. What? How can I say such a thing? No refugees in Gaza? Am I mad? No, I'm not mad at all. What do we mean by refugees, do you think? Shall we see what the United Nations says about this and then use their definition? I give a link to it in the description to this video. Here we go. The definition of a refugee is someone who, owing to well-founded fear of being persecuted for reasons of race, religion, nationality, membership of a particular social group or political opinion, is outside the country of his nationality and is unable, or owing to such fear is unwilling to avail himself of the protection of that country, or who, not having a nationality and being outside the country of his former habitual residence, is unable, or owing to such fear, is unwilling to return to it. The demographic profile of Gaza is very young. Almost half the people there are under the age of 18. Just 1% of those living there are over the age of 75. This means that 99% of the population in Gaza were born in Gaza. There's nowhere for them to return to because that's where they were born. That's their country. They were born there. They haven't fled from anywhere at all. They are not refugees in any conceivable sense of the word. They are living in the country where they were born. The situation is the same in Israel. In the late 1940s and early 1950s, 130,000 Iraqi Jews fled from Iraq to Israel. Today, there are about 450,000 Jews in Israel who are descended from those people. Are they refugees? They were born in Israel and have lived there all their life, so they cannot really be described as refugees, can they? Any more than the people born in Gaza can be described in that way. There are no refugee camps in Gaza. Rather, there are areas in the city in which people live. This idea that being a refugee is something which can be passed on to your children and grandchildren is not applied anywhere in the whole world other than in that little part of the Middle East. Do you really think that the grandchildren of the Indians who fled Pakistan and went to India when Pakistan was created think of themselves as refugees because their grandparents fled to India? Of course they don't. I'll have to do a separate video about UNRWA, the United Nations agency, which is involved in this racket. It's a huge business in the Middle East, the Palestinian refugee business. I don't think I can go into it in this video because it extends far beyond Gaza. Having got that out of the way, what about the idea that Gaza is horribly overcrowded and like an open-air prison because the borders are closely guarded and Israel sets a watch on vehicles or ships entering the area? Gaza is about as crowded as any other large city like London or Tel Aviv. It's a lot less crowded than Hong Kong or Singapore. When Hong Kong was under British control in the 1990s, China was very tough about the borders and very strict about who could come and go across them. They were also enormously touchy about ships passing through the waters around Hong Kong. Here's a question. Did you ever hear anybody describe Hong Kong as an open-air prison because of this? Of course not. That would be stupid. What about Singapore? Does anybody think that's an open-air prison? No, they don't, do they? Returning to that hotel I mentioned, did any viewers know that there were many smart hotels along the seafront in Gaza, and that until the recent events in the beginning of October, people were going there for their holidays? Did they know that many people in Gaza wished to see the place develop into a tourist resort, and that the Israelis were quite agreeable before Hamas took over to the idea of an international airport in the Gaza Strip? Is there any reason why Gaza couldn't be a prosperous little nation like Singapore? The Israelis were growing flowers in huge greenhouses there before 2005 and exporting them to Europe. I lived in a settlement near Rafah in 1978 and 1979 called Talmei Yosef, and there were other little settlements nearby, places like Sadot and Nativa Sarah, where there were hydroponics research stations. These places made a good living by growing fruit and flowers and exporting them to Europe. Gaza could do the same now. Rather than digging tunnels, they could be planting flowers. It worked for the Israelis, it could work for the people of Gaza. I think I shall have to make another video exploring this subject further. For example, the question of water in Gaza, electricity, because there's a good deal more to say. But you can take it from me that your views about Gaza are very distorted and that you've been cruelly misled about the place.